Mychal Thompson, LA Laker great, two-time NBA champion. I have a lot of respect for Mychal Thompson. I don't have a problem with Mychal Thompson other than he was a Laker great, and I despise everything Los Angeles Lakers because, hey, Philly guy, what can I say? But y'all might remember if you were around, if you were one of the OGs, as they say, one of the original 19 from back in 2024, I did a video on Mychal Thompson, maybe even a couple on some things that he said, because it was very, very refreshing at the time because we got honesty and truth coming from a well-respected basketball guy, the exact type of thing that we did not and do not and will not get from typical WNBA media. Honesty, truth, objectivity, knowledge when it comes to Caitlin Clark. Now, I did a video the other day about the whole possibility of the Fever being, the Fever being unhappy with Caitlin Clark. That was Mychal Thompson said, coming from a very reliable source. And then people ran with his next comment, which was, hey, LA Sparks, because he's a Sparks guy, go get her. Now, that was it. He didn't say, I'm hearing that there are whispers that Caitlin's going to be traded, that maybe it'll be the LA Sparks, but people ran with that. No, he said, I have a reliable source that says the Fever are unhappy with Caitlin Clark. Completely separate thought. Reaction to that is, hey, Sparks, why don't you see if you can go get Caitlin Clark? It wasn't, hey, I have a source that says Caitlin Clark's being traded. LA is in the running, right? Very different thing. But anyway, he did say as a reliable source saying that that the Indiana Fever are unhappy with Caitlin Clark. I have zero reason to not believe that when it comes from Mychal Thompson. That doesn't mean they are trying to trade her. Okay. But hey, if they're that unhappy, maybe it will happen. So I want to play a clip for you here. I think it's a little over a minute long. Mychal Thompson talking to Jason Whitlock, but he says some really important things, some things that need to be said, things that maybe for those of the people that are still in denial, that are closing their eyes to the situation, it might wake them up considering the source being Mychal Thompson. But he absolutely says a few things that I think are really important to hear and discuss. So let's dig in.
Have you ever seen this before with such, obviously you played with Magic Johnson, you played in the era with Bird, Magic, Kareem. Have you ever seen this before where you have this transcendent superstar and they seem to have adopted a system that doesn't work for Caitlin Clark?
Never seen this in any sport. It'd be like taking the serve away from Serena Williams. A coach telling her, "No, I don't like that big serve you have. So let's have a more traditional serve, one that's not as hard and can't. It's like taking the bat out of Otani's hands and turning him into a single sitter. It's like taking the second best lineman in the history of football next to Ball State's Jason Whitlock's, the late great Larry Allen from the Cowboys, and turning him into a long snapper. They've taken away Caitlin's superpowers. And when you draft a player like Caitlin, like a Steph Curry, a Magic, an Isaiah Thomas, of course, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, when you have a player of that caliber, of a Wemby, you play to their strengths and you build around a franchise player such as that. And it seems like they brought the franchise player in to make them play the way they want to play as opposed to adopting to her style and what made her the most popular basketball player in the world
Well,
when she was at Iowa.
isn't that interesting and incredibly well said by Mychal Thompson as well? And you could go on and on with examples like he was giving because that is exactly what it is like. It seems over the top, like you said about Serena Williams. Well, Serena, no, 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 no. You have that monster serve. It's gotten you into the greatest tennis player, women's tennis player of all time discussion, but don't use it. Okay, don't use it. Don't use it. That big, powerful forehand, don't use it. Don't use it. In fact, start playing left-handed and only slice the ball. So let's take a step back right? Let's just a little take a just a tiny step back. Sorry, Simon says, CDS says, take a step back. This is why I keep saying and why I mention this sometimes when I talk about these situations with the Indiana Fever and Stephanie White and what is going on. I said, hey, let's for a moment take the Caitlin Clark out of it, okay? And what I mean is all of the extra. Let's say Caitlin Clark just came into the league, the player that she is, but all the other stuff surrounding her wasn't happening, right? So in other words, it's a normal professional sports league instead of the WNBA, the messy WNBA reality show. Based on what they are doing, the front office in roster construction, 2 years in a row, by the way, last year and this year. Amber Cox, Kelly Kroskov. And the way Stephanie White is insisting on coaching her generational talent, Caitlin Clark. They all should be fired. A well-run organization with an owner that cares would have already fired all of them by now. Again, setting aside all the crazy surrounding Caitlin Clark, the fact that they are taking Caitlin Clark and the way she plays the game and what she brings, we all know it, right? Super high basketball IQ, phenomenal passer, greatest transition player the league has ever seen. In fact, one of the greatest transition players in basketball, period. Now, no, I'm not going crazy and saying she could do that in the NBA, but she just simply doesn't have, right, the physical skills, or I shouldn't even say skills, athleticism of those players, right? But the way she does what she does, one of the greatest transition basketball players, period, ever. We know about her 3-point shooting, or the logo threes and her range and all that. We know how unbelievably good she is playing a pick and roll, even with a teammate who doesn't set a good pick. Think about that. Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston have the most unstoppable play in the WNBA, and that is with Aaliyah Boston setting below average picks. How insane is that? Just think of Aaliyah Boston set good picks. And so Stephanie White has said, I don't want you to throw those passes, right? We know that. We have Caitlin Clark on video saying Stephanie White is telling her not to throw those passes, right? All the ones that you love, right? All those passes that y'all love that are almost as fantastic to watch as the logo threes, right? The other team scores a bucket and then the Fever bring it in, and within a second or two, the Fever have a layup down the other end, all because of Caitlin Clark's transition ability. The kind of pressure that puts on a defense, knowing every single time, not only when the other team gets a defensive rebound when you miss, but even when you make, that you still need to bust your butt back on defense because you could be giving up a bucket within a second or two. Like, do you have any idea, for those of you that played, do you if those of you play, you probably can grasp it a little bit, even though you've never had to face it, right? Neither have I. That when you're on offense, part of you is worried about playing defense because again, no matter what you do, make it or miss it, there's a very, very good chance the other team's getting a layup within a second or two of that shot being taken by your own team. Absolutely insane kind of pressure to deal with. And you know what that does? It lessens their offensive impact, right? So Caitlin Clark being on the court, just being on the court with her transition, what she can do in the transition game, hurts the other team's offense. But Stephanie White says, no, we're going to take that away from your game. The logo three, no, we want to take that away from your game. The pick and roll, no, 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 we don't want that. We want to take that away from Caitlin Clark's game. Mychal Thompson is 100%. And again, all of that, all fireable offenses. And again, I'm going strictly with here is what Caitlin Clark does extremely well, better than anyone else in the league. Boom, 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 boom. Here's what Stephanie White does not want Caitlin Clark doing. Boom, 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 boom. They're all the same thing. That is insane. Just lay it out like that. Think about that for a second. That is absolutely, utterly insane for any coach to look at a player like Caitlin Clark and says, okay, here's the things that make her her and why we drafted her number one. Here's the things we're going to take away and say she can't do. And it's the same list. What the What? What are we doing? By the way, Natasha Howard is absolutely crushing it in Minnesota. Crushing it. Man, anyway, I just wanted to go through all of that and do it in a way that has nothing to do with all the extra surrounding Caitlin Clark, right? Like we're not even getting into what's how Stephanie White treats Caitlin and how she embarrasses, like all of that. Just purely from a basketball perspective, Stephanie White, Amber Cox, Kelly Krauskopf should all be fired for how they've handled the Indiana Fever since they drafted Caitlin Clark. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. I will talk to you later.